Good morning and welcome to Being Your Own CEO, our weekly success circle where we have a bit of fun, share things that we know, share questions that we want answered, and generally provide support and nice connection. It's something that anybody who is, especially if they're a solopreneur, they are most welcome to come in and join us. So welcome this morning, you guys. Let's see. Carlo, how would you like to begin by introducing yourself?
I'll do that. I'll introduce. Hi, I'm Carlos W. in Las Vegas. Happy to be here. I'm a guy that lives in Las Vegas. I love the internet. Thank you.
Glad you came. And Jay, what about you?
Hi, my name is Jay, and I hail from Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and I'm the CEO and founder of Affiliate Resources Incorporated, and I help people just like you get started in the world of online marketing.
On. Thank you. And Vivek, how would you like to introduce yourself?
Namaste.
Namaste.
My name is Vivekanand. I presently live closer to London, United Kingdom. I believe in living a simple life. I believe in thinking differently. And I am proud to share that with Leonardo da Vinci and Steve Jobs, who said simplicity is the ultimate in sophistication. So I have been a software developer for a long time, for decades. And project managing is what I would do.
Nice to have you here. And interesting that you would speak about simplicity. That was kind of a conclusion that my client and I reached this morning. So I might introduce myself. I'm Lolan. I go by both names. And in my work style, lifestyle consulting, I work with solopreneurs to help them stay motivated and figure out their online presence, how to promote their business, how to make their business more efficient, productive, and just to receive the kind of support that solo entrepreneurs feel like they need. They often feel extremely isolated, and so I try to provide the mechanism to help them get over that feeling of isolation as well. So welcome everyone, and we may have some others joining us. Who knows? You never know what's going to happen on the internet. So our topic this morning, which was suggested by Paul, by the way, who isn't here yet. Maybe he's coming. Spring cleaning for your business. We were chatting about topics, and his first question is it spring yet? And as I think about that, I'm not sure I know. Is it March the 21st is the first day of spring? Anybody know?
In the UK, meteorologically, it is the first day of spring.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I'll go with that. I would say that visually in Victoria, it is definitely spring. The daffodils are out. The cherry blossoms are out. We were in the up at Finnerty Garden on Monday, and the rhodos are out. Like it's just amazing. So,
according to Siri, spring begins March 19th and ends June 19th.
Oh, Siri. Oh, you gotta love Siri. Here comes Nathan and Craig. So just pardon me while I just do the right technical things to bring them in.
Hopefully they have a late slip.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, life gets in the way. Life gets busy, and we just have to deal with what we can. So, Nathan, you arrived just in time to introduce yourself.
That might be a challenge. I'm trying to even see myself on screen.
And Craig, oh, he's dropped off. Oh, interesting.
They didn't have a class.
I'm still not on screen here. Okay. It's been a weird morning.
We can see you.
Yeah, I can see you too. Finally. Yeah, it was challenging to get in this morning.
We are in the recording mode now, so do introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Nathan. I'm currently hanging out in Mexico on the Baja, and primarily working as a freelance writer for years and making a transition into a new area, which is showing people how to end mental suffering. And my website is called End All Wars by endingthewarwithin.com. Long name, I know, but it encapsulates my concept.
Yeah, and that website seems to be kind of new. I was in there having a look around yesterday or the day before.
Extremely new. I haven't even put in the opt-in in place or anything like that.
Yeah. So
one day.
There's Craig trying to get in. It's keeps bouncing at him. I don't know. There's
a ladder, Craig. There's a ladder on the side of the computer.
Yeah. So let's get on with. Oh, there he is. Craig, you arrived just in time to introduce yourself.
Well, hi, I'm Craig. I'm here in Western New York, and I try and help local businesses get online and get people in their door.
Aha. On a local basis and afar as well, I think.
Well, I also do some affiliate marketing, and I help out where I can on the internet.
Yes, we do know that. And welcome. I'm glad you made it.
Thanks.
So we were going to, just to reiterate, we were going to speak about spring cleaning for our business. So I sat down last week and wrote a bunch of things down, just kind of a checklist. So I'll go ahead and share what I wrote, and hopefully some of you can add what comes to mind for you. So I said remove all old apps and programs that are no longer in use. So I was thinking about my computer now. When I looked around, I actually just got a new computer, so I was forced into it. But I looked around and saw a number of things in there that I hadn't looked at or used in several years. And I thought, why am I clogging everything up with that stuff? So I just got rid of them. And there was a lot of data on my system that was there since I went into business. Been there since 1996, and some things weren't worth keeping. Some things were things that I haven't looked at for a long time, but I was at that still saying, well, you never know. So some of those you never knows, I just put on a data stick and threw them in the freezer. Through the data stick in the freezer. So I know that it's there if I need it, but chances are I may not. Certainly cleaning out the inbox, and that's less of an issue for me because I try to operate my business with an empty inbox. And I've put a lot of energy toward learning how to manage Gmail in an efficient way. However, I'm very much aware there are people with thousands of emails in their inbox. I think that will come back to haunt a few people when Google starts charging for extra space. So that was another one. The revamp and or clean up the labels in Google+. I went in and kind of looked around my circles and decided to kind of reorganize those and so forth. I did the same thing in my inbox. Like I had a bunch of sort of labels that I wasn't using anymore, and I did a bunch of kind of work around getting that, simplifying actually to go in Vivek's direction. Another thing that jumps to mind, one evening this week, I was listening to something on the radio, and sometimes when I'm just sitting and listening to the radio, I like to have something to do. And so I completely reorganized the homepage on my smartphone and, you know, put certain things together that made sense, etc. And I'm finding that it's working much more efficiently now by doing that. Something else that I did this week was I cleaned my keyboard and my monitor. Got out the spray can and blew the dust out of the keyboard and wiped everything down, etc. So, you know, I think that sort of thing needs to be done once in a while.
Did you find Jimmy Hoffa?
No. So, and another piece I think for a lot of people, and again, which is not an issue for me, is just shredding old paper. I spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out how to be as paperless as possible. So I have a shredder, and I do constant shredding all the time just to keep the paper down. Oh, here's a big one. This is March coming up, and in Canada, at least, we have I think until the end of March to get our income tax in. And it occurred to me, you know, we're expected to keep old tax returns for 7 years. So one of the house cleaning things would be to shred anything over 8 years old. So just to get rid of that stuff, get it out of your life. You don't need it anymore. So, and let's see. Oh, yes. And the final thing that I wrote was, find a more efficient way to keep track of your receipts for your tax stuff. And that's something that I've been playing with using Evernote with my smartphone. So if I'm out and about, I can take a picture of a receipt, classify it, and then later move it into another program that I have on my computer so that I don't have to keep those receipts. So going paperless. And of course, I mean, when you're working with year end, this is a good time to change the way you keep track of things. Another suggestion and another piece actually that just came to mind is in Canada, we're expected to keep track of the mileage for our car usage if we're going to be claiming any part of our car expenses on income tax. And I found this really nifty little program for my smartphone, so I do that. And then at year end, I can just upload that, save it as a CSV file, and upload that to Evernote, and so I've got the whole thing done. That part is all done. And so again, going paperless and the things that we need to do at year end. It's a good time to rearrange the way we do things in a more efficient and simple way. So that's my list. Did anybody else have anything on their list? Jay, what about you?
One of the things that I just thought of as you were talking was the taking pictures of receipts. And the accounting software that I use, FreshBooks, gives you the ability to take the picture of the receipt and then add a note to it saying, all right, well, what is this expense? What is it? What's the store name? And you can add the GST or the tax, that's associated to that cost. So it's a brilliant. So that way you don't have to actually hold all of these receipts. You can then just send the data file over to your accountant, and they take care of it. It's absolutely wonderful, and you can use your app as well. So it's a wonderful piece of cloud accounting software. It does billing and everything like that. But yeah, so FreshBooks, you can take that picture and of the receipt. So it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Now you've made me wonder, because I use QuickBooks Online, and that might be something to look into to see whether I can do it there. Yeah.
Yeah.
That way, because if you can eliminate one step, it's always worth giving a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Good morning, Paul. Welcome here.
How are you?
We're good. We're talking about spring cleaning for our business.
Got it.
Is there anybody in here that you don't know, Paul?
No.
Okay, right on. Carry on. Jay, what else did you have?
Well, I mean, in terms of spring cleaning your business, I think, if your business is online in any way, shape, or form, and if that's how you attract clients, I think it's important to, sweep that front step, and so that, it's extremely appealing for people to come into your virtual home. I like to try to compare spring cleaning to your website similar to spring cleaning your home or improving your home, such as creating more curb appeal for your online business. So thus creating a more visually appealing for conversions for the front end of your website. The other thing too is making your home stronger. So like framing your home, making it more, maybe either adding an addition or making it stronger, or adding, improving the foundation. So in terms of a website, that would be, improving the site structure. And that could be anything from, making sure all the software that's running your site is all up to date, to adding a single IP address, to adding an SSL security certificate so that your website is on HTTPS, a variety of things like that. And also in terms of spring cleaning your website, you want to take a look at, you want to improve what's working, right? So in that effect, you want to determine what is working for your site. So it could be a specific page. It could be a specific keyword that's bringing people in. You want to investigate that, and the best place to investigate that information is with Google Analytics, which is a free tool that's provided by Google. And what Google Analytics does is it tells you the behavior of the people visiting your site. So it shows you how they're entering your site, what they're doing on your site, and where they're leaving. Mm-hmm. And it also tells you how well your site is performing in terms of speed and conversion, and whether people are jumping from page to page. And in it's actually relatively easy to be able to find that information on, determining what's working, what isn't working, and you want to leverage what's working. You want to find out what's working and leverage that information. And when I mean leveraging that information, it could be maybe improving it by getting more traffic to that particular funnel. So let's say Business Coach Canada. Let's say that's your keyword that seems to be attracting a lot of visitors. And people are coming to your Business Coach Canada webpage on your website, and they're reading your information, but they're not taking action. So what you need to determine, why? Why are they not taking action? So you can then go look at your page and go, oh, there's no call to action at the bottom of that page. Well, let's improve that. So that's what I mean in terms of spring cleaning your business, your website. Other elements could be just making sure you might want to take a look at what things you seem to be doing a lot of, like the mundane tasks, and think about maybe hiring someone to do those tasks for you. If they're learnable tasks, then try finding someone who can do those learnable tasks so that you don't have to worry about them, and then you can focus on other elements of your business that are more proprietary to you, as opposed to making sure your site is running smoothly, or posting in social media for you or on behalf of your clients or something like that. These are the tasks that you can assign to a team, and obviously don't do that if you can't propagate the cost, right? You want to implement that cost into your business, and also make sure that it's implemented into your clients' cost as well. So. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for now. I'm sure something else will come up in the hamster wheel.
Well, and I think that's a really good piece of advice to look at what is teachable. And my hamster wheel went to all of the steps that I take. For example, when this Hangout is finished, I have a process of, I think there's 11 steps that I need to take. And I mean, if you've got something that you can put into a step-by-step process, then you can easily teach that to somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Tasks can not only be learned or taught to someone else, they can also be automated. So if you're at a point with your online business where you're not ready to hand that off to a different person for whatever reason, whether it be control or cost, then maybe find a tool or a piece of software that can help you eliminate 4 of those steps out of the 11 that you take, right? So and there's software and apps for everything, So obviously there's going to be in most cases there'll be a cost associated to that, but that cost will be far less than hiring staff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So and certainly if you do need to find somebody to do it, there is an association of VAs, virtual assistants. There are 2 or 3 very good ones here in Victoria who belong to an international, I think, company or organization. Yeah.
There's also a site called Upwork.com.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
Upwork.com used to be Odesk.com, and they've changed to Upwork. I personally, amongst all of the freelancer websites that are available, I personally like Upwork the best, because it's really reliable. You can really hone in on who you want to hire, in terms of their skills and whatnot. You can really filter down your call for proposal. I've hired some wonderful people, and I find that a lot of the people that you hire, if you do your filtering correctly, really tend to go above and beyond what was initially called to do. And especially if you hire the people who are relatively new to the website, They've got a few a few gigs under their belt. And because they want to improve their own profile on Upwork, and that way they're really wanting to please you so that you give a really good positive review, and also helps their resume. The people who are extremely experienced in there, yes, they're great, but they tend to be more expensive.
Yeah.
So I find that kind of low to middle person who's just kind of starting out tends to work really, really well. Just make sure you do your due diligence and filter out the people whom or the skill sets that you don't necessarily need. So.
Yeah, so you need to know what you need.
Exactly. Yeah. So that falls back to that learnable asset. And this, one really important thing I think is if you end up doing this, you want to know what it is that you're teaching. So if you're hiring someone to do some SEO for your sites, like adding meta descriptions, well, you need to know how to add meta descriptions so that you can teach that to other people, as opposed to like, well, I hear I need meta descriptions. Can you do that? Right? This way, you can check people's work and determine whether it's good or needs to be improved.
Yeah, really important. So, okay, checking to see if there are some things that can be referred on, or that maybe there's a new tool that would take care of automating something. Anybody else have any ideas about what could be done? Is that you, Vivek, waving?
What I wanted to say was we must do what we are good at, and what we are not good at, find someone else who is excellent at doing that, and then let them do that task. So that way you get best results.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing is, the things that we're good at are usually, not always, but usually the things we enjoy doing the most.
Yeah.
So you don't ever want to let go of the stuff you enjoy doing. So any other ideas about spring cleaning? Paul, you were the guy that recommended spring cleaning for our business. Did you have something in mind when you suggested that?
No, not particularly. I just think that I like all of the suggestions that have come up. It's good to take an excuse, for want of a better word, to look at your business, to sort of get out of it, stand back and have a look at it. I try quarterly too. This has been mentioned, but just a different spin on it. I try quarterly to time out a week of what I'm doing, and I have a certain value put on my time. If I was billing it out, say, to a client, I would want to have at least that value come back. So then I take a look at each of the things I do and say, okay, am I getting this value back from what I'm doing here? And if not, then I have to say to myself, well, how best can I put it somewhere else that then I can take that chunk of time that has a value to it and apply it to something that's going to bring value back to me. So it's just a different way of looking at something that we've talked about already.
Yeah, but I think it's a good idea. So
I think something that Paul said I'd like to add to, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Paul said, that he likes to take a step back and look at his business. I think that's really challenging for entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, because we're so immersed in our business. You ever notice that you can always critique someone else's website business or whatever, offer suggestions, but yet you can't do it for yourself because you're so overly critical. We are our worst critics, right? So I think it's really important to not only take a step back and look at your business from a different perspective, but also get additional feedback from other people and be willing to accept that feedback, as opposed to taking offense if someone says, well, maybe you can change this. It's like, well, why would I want to do that? This is my business. I know it works and stuff. So
That I guess that's why that phrase "cobbler's children have the worst shoes" came about.
But I think you're right about you know, being able to stand back and look at it from a distance. And I like your suggestion around, you know, getting somebody else to kind of look at what you're doing with an objective eye. It's a little bit like having a website audit, somebody else going and looking. And I think that there's a possibility of doing a kind of a business audit. I know I have a sort of a half-day session that I work with a solopreneur or a small business person, and we look at all the various aspects of being in business and what's going on in each one of those areas, and come away with some sense of just that, you know, what something new that needs to be done, or something that needs to be eliminated, or something that needs to be improved upon. So that I couldn't agree more. Somebody else can see lots of things that you can't see yourself. Yeah, it's right on. So spring cleaning. When Jay, when you were talking about taking care of your website and looking at the front door, etc., etc., I spent most of last week painting 3 doors in my apartment. And I at some point was asking myself, now is this displacement activity from something else that I ought to be doing?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, that kind of brings me to another thought is one thing that I personally like to do when it's kind of spring cleaning time is to rearrange my office a little bit. Make some feng shui changes. I know nothing about feng shui, but but I do like to make small little changes, rearranging furniture a little bit, and I find that kind of gives you a little fresh outlook. It's like why we go to coffee shops sometime to work. It's a different environment, because we can kind of tend to get used to our environment when we work. So I think rearranging things a little bit. Like I think Craig could use like a moose head behind him on its wall, or elk horns or something like that.
Actually,
where it sits and it would kind of go like this, right? Awesome.
I actually have a fish.
That's good. That would be perfect. Is it one of those singing fishes? If you clap your hands, it'll start.
No. This is a 68-inch sailfish that my aunt caught back when I was I was on the boat when it happened. I was 8 or 9, and she recently moved out of her house, and my cousin has grabbed the fish for me. So it's
but
that would be perfect.
It won't fit in here.
You'd have to bend its nose.
Yeah, so now we're into a fish tail. The fish is so big it won't fit.
Yeah, right.
From bill to tail, it's 68 inches wide. Long.
Oh my word!
Wow. So you'd have to angle it.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, like
I'll have to be on camera like this all the time.
Yeah. But I think it's really important to make these kind of changes. It could even mean like maybe changing your personal appearance, like in terms of how you dress when you go to work, or when you are working, even if you're working at home or something like that. There you go.
Does that work, Jay?
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, as you were talking about changing things up, what popped into my mind is cleaning up the desktop on your computer. Get that organized in a way that it's, because clutter, it doesn't matter where the clutter is, it becomes very distracting.
also your desktop, at least on a Mac, when you put things on your desktop, they're actually running in the background. Thus, it slows your computer down. Now, I'm not 100% sure if that happens on PCs as well. I think it does,
Really?
but I do know on Mac. So if you have your desktop like with loads of files and just kind of things on there, they're all kind of pre-ready to. It's like their engine is started, so they're all running, and that can really suck your RAM.
They don't actually run. They don't actually run if they're on the desktop, but there are certain things that run in the background that are preloaded. So yeah, there can be some things.
Those are things in the systems tray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I must admit I keep a lot of things on my desktop. I have folders of things on my desktop because they're things that I use a lot. And they're just faster for me to access. But it still needs to be organized in a certain way, and certain things clumped together that are related to one another, etc. So I find myself helping some people with things on their computers, and there's so much stuff on their desktop that I mean, if you were looking for something, I can't find it because there's so much there I can't see a detail. It's just, and yet some people seem to need to work that way. But I think clutter is something that wastes a lot of attention energy.
Here you go, Lolan. It's a rag for cleaning your glasses.
Thank you.
It's funny that you mentioned organization because that's something I just wrote down. Organization and planning. You know, like how do you plan your day? How do you plan your week? How do you organize your business for a week? You know, what days do you do for, you know, you work on prospecting for business, you know, and I think it's really good and important to have a schedule, you know, and have a consistent schedule because I think consistency works really well. You know, well, at least for me, you know, I need to write. I write everything down. I write what I'm going to do in that day, and I try to stick to the list as best as I can. And I think if you don't do that now, I think that's really important to do because it will certainly help your business, and it'll certainly, you know, bring you closer to that kind of success that you want. You know, that the goals that you want. And there's another thing is creating goals, you know, creating small little goals within, whether it be the week, the month, the year, you know, what are your goals? It could be financial, it could be in, you know, a volume of clients, you know, whatever end up the goals that you want to do. Write them down, right? That's what that thing's for.
Right. There's a chap that does business here out of Victoria, Mike Vardy, who when planning, he talks about theming your week, and so putting like tasks together and so forth, and so his theming is way more complicated than mine is, but I know that you know, I know what my activities for each day are going to be. And they're different. Yeah. I know that one particular day I use for, you know, doing the research and writing my blog. I know another day is for another purpose. Like I do have my week themed, and I know that for the most part, if I'm going to be doing something out and about in the community, it's all on one day.
Mm-hmm. I think
that kind of a thing.
Can I say something about organizing and so on?
Yeah.
I recently had an experience with someone, a business, who charges us for being disorganized. I mean, they are disorganized, but the clients end up paying.
That's really interesting. And that could be something that becomes very transparent.
The problem is, in such a scenario, the company has no incentive to organize, keep themselves organized, because the client is paying. So why should they care? I mean, in fact, if they make things organized, probably their business goes down.
And they wouldn't be able to charge as much.
Yes.
That's a good point.
Vivek, with your permission, I would love to use that quote. Your client is paying for your disorganization. May I use that and credit you?
Yeah. Are we talking lawyers here?
Golf lawyers?
Close enough.
Yeah, that is really something to think about. Wow, organizing, and organizing is like house cleaning, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
If
Well, I mean,
wanted
you
to-
organize your home.
May I say, okay.
Craig? Carlo.
Thank you. If you want to get a sense for how good you are at what you do, I recommend one client at a time, do on a pro bono basis.
Mhm.
And how they react to you and your deadlines will tell you how the other people aren't telling you how you're reacting to deadlines.
If they're not paying, they're going to be more honest, you mean?
Well, by doing, okay, I learned this decades ago from a friend of mine. She said, if you want to know how good somebody will be in a paid position, watch how they perform in a volunteer position.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I learned or taught myself to do one client on a pro bono basis. That's different from the clients that want to get a free ride, where I go out and someone contacts me and I say, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I can give you X amount of hours a month, and I'll help you through this to this phase until you get to the next phase. Whether they stay with me or not, it's up to them. But what I learned from that is they're one of your best audiences in the sense that they tend to be a little bit more vocal.
Mm-hmm.
Because on the other side of that, you got to be careful, because the only thing you will get for doing stuff for free, which is different than doing stuff for pro bono, is demands for more free stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they won't think you professional enough to warrant your hourly rate. They'll go to the next person, or they'll go to Upwork, and pay them before they'll do the guy down the street, with no slight to you, Jay. But you find out a lot about how you're running your practice. And Paul said this is lawyers. Internet people, consultants, is the same thing. If you take a professional mindset, and you would be just. I invite you to try it once or twice, and make note of what you're dealing with yourself, because we all like to. We do what we want to do first. We do what we have to do second.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have when you have a pro bono client, and they say, well, how are you coming with this part? Well, I'm going to do it over the weekend. And your justification is, well, I've got all these hours to bill today, so by downtime I could do it maybe Saturday afternoon. And you would be in for a treat about yourself. You'd learn a lot about yourself.
So, Carlo, do you? I'm hearing a distinction in your mind between a pro bono client and a client who is getting something for free.
Okay, a client who's getting something.
Can you differentiate for me?
Most happily. You willfully extend yourself into a pro bono client. You inherit, like Skippy for the bone, a free client. Where by you hoping, one of the nice things about being older is you're no longer young enough to think you know everything. And so the fun point is, thank you, Craig. And so the fun point is,
I got a couple of white hairs myself.
the fun thing is that you delude yourself into thinking, well, if I give them a sample of how really great I am at writing this code, or if I get, that they're going to give you the big job. Guy came to me last week. He referenced a well-known personality. He wanted a website like that. I said, I'd be glad to. You know what it's going to cost you? He said, I have no idea. I said, let's start at $25,000, and then we can talk from there. And there was like crickets. But the site was worth $20,000 to $30,000. People have no idea that sites can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. They just want to do a template, bim, boom, boom, yeah, you're finished with it. So the difference is you get into a situation where you see somebody who is essentially a Luddite, but they want to get online.
Mm-hmm.
And so rather they couldn't afford for you to sit on their lap and spoon feed them. So you volunteer a couple hours a week, a couple hours a month, and you move them into it. Mm-hmm. And what happens is they become more and more enthusiastic because they're learning all this stuff. They're anti-technology until they're sitting inside of it. And then you start seeing them feed back to you what they're learning, and it's like, wow, it's almost like creating a digital kid.
They can also become some of your best brand ambassadors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said, Craig.
So in the coaching world, in the early days, there were offers of free coaching sessions so that you can experience what it feels like and whether it's useful and whether there's a good chemistry between you, etc. And what happened was people started to catch on to that, and so and it worked really well in the early days of coaching. People would come and do a coaching session, and if there was a good rapport, they would carry on. But then it morphed because there were a lot of people who figured that out, and they went from one coach to another, just collecting up free coaching sessions.
Can I address that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
One of the things that I've learned to do both in my digital side of the house and my financial consulting side of the house is that when just recently somebody said to me, well, can you lay out a 30, 60, 90-day plan? I said, be glad to. But my usual rates will apply. And it's going to take me so many hours to do this. And if you decide to use my services within 7 business days, I will give you 75% credit towards that.
That's exactly what I do. Exactly what I do. Yeah.
You learn from experience. There's nothing like experience, right, Jay?
Right. So, but the pro bono piece in the coaching world would be, as you were saying, I found somebody who needs my service, and I offer it freely.
Yes, and again, let me detail that. I don't tool around the internet looking for somebody. Gee, who can I help? What happens is life situation, you come across somebody, and during the course of the conversation, they say, "Gee, I'd like to do this," or so on and so forth. In one situation, I've got a person that's writing a book, and I'm working with them as far as relaunching the book in the digital world. And so that, in my mind, is an honest-to-goodness pro bono situation. Mm-hmm. That is not a sample from the home office.
No.
In fact, there's one case I'm thinking of. When I complete that session and they get to a certain point, which may be a number of hours from now in the future, I have the opportunity to say, okay, now go find somebody that'll do that for you on a fee basis. Because it's just more or less a quick to get them started, and I don't want to too bad this is live. I'm a big fan of just because I saved your life doesn't mean I'm responsible for you.
Yeah. So that's that was a worthwhile piece, but it is a little bit off topic.
Well, spring cleaning.
Although it's not in a sort of a way.
Okay, let me give you spring cleaning. What I recommend you do is put all your data up in the cloud.
Yeah.
And make sure that there's a piece of software I like to use. It's called File Sync. It's free. It's available across platforms. As you know, I like my OS of choice is Linux, Ubuntu, and I put everything up into Dropbox. I've got one of those $10 a month terabyte deals. Also, I've got 4 Google Apps work accounts, and I spin data across those. As relates to getting rid of files, you've got more, all of us with gray hair, have got more data storage than we have life left. So,
yeah.
so it makes no difference what you keep there. In fact, unless you're doing full inventory of your data, the only time you come across it is, except for the top of the mind stuff, is the serendipitous stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one is to keep a thumb drive with a reboot or a mirror image of your existing hard drive.
Mm-hmm.
So in case your system decides to keel over,
yes,
and you're in there, and you whether it be Macs, Linux, or Windows, and you turn on the light and it just looks at you like, yeah, and what do you want? Okay.
I think at the end of the day, we're talking about feedback here, you know. So it could be, the feedback could be coming from someone who's pro bono. It could be a paid client. But I think the important thing is, regardless whether they pay or not, to help improve your business, i.e. spring clean it, I think it's important that you get that feedback and you create some sort of funnel that aids these people into providing you feedback. So at the end of your first level of service offering with these clients is, I think, you know, within your sales funnel, you might want to consider asking them, hey, can I get some feedback? Here's a form on our website. You can offer a rating and whatnot. At which point you can, you know, gather that kind of data, and that's really good to have that feedback. At which point you can take that and apply it to your, you know, your spring cleaning efforts for your business, whether it's online or offline. So, and I think if your business is offline, you can have a feedback form, whether it be like a checklist or something, you know. But obviously,
I politely push back against that.
Sure.
You mentioned the magic word form, poll. Our egos get into our sundry dress mode, and we have this mental power of how we can deign somebody good at what they do. In a pro bono situation, it's more innocent, it's more organic. And when you're dealing with a client, this comes from decades of doing on-site management consultancy. When I'm interviewing you and you're interviewing me during the course of the interview, you will organically tell me how you feel about certain projects, certain phases. But if I give you a form to fill out, and maybe it's just my own impression, it's like ask somebody to write a review. They've got this magic wand in their hand, you know, and they're going to say all these trite things that they've learned how to write in Yelp and all these things. Yelp, Yext, Google+, whatever. And that's fine. But I don't think that anybody who sees you in the coffee shop or sees you in the church is going to say, this guy's a butthead. He's going to say, hey, this guy's great. He hung the moon. Thank you so much. You know, they're reviews done by your mother with respect.
Right, sure. Perhaps I should clarify that the feedback form is private. It wouldn't be something that would be publicly shown. Thus, they can feel more comfortable adding. And you know, honestly, I'm not sure if a pro bono client would be more honest in terms of their feedback. You know, because they're walking into a situation where you're providing a value for free. So it's the start of a mindset that says, wow, this is free, this is great. So you could be handing them, you know, something subpar, and I think they're going to have the mindset that goes, well, it was okay, but it was free, so I'm going to be nice to this person.
I got to push back because you're not looking. I know you want to say that, But please don't conflate free with for the public good. Because if I suspect that someone says, I've got this dummy on the line that's doing pro bono work for me, another name for free, do you think I'm going to sit around and get dunked in the water every day? Of course not. So the idea is when you go in to a practitioner, i.e. lawyer, accountant, architect, and they say pro bono for the public good, if you're not sitting up there like Skippy for the bone as the recipient, I don't want to work with you. If I give you an assignment to complete, you have to finish this text by that day, you have to finish this by that day, and if they don't, say, look, I'm not convinced that this is going to work out for both of us. If you don't believe, do you believe in the hereafter? It's an old joke, but it says, do you believe in hereafter? If you're not here after what I'm here after, you're going to be here after I'm gone.
I love it. Carlo and Jay, I can't help but sort of jump in. In my coaching work, at the end of every coaching session, I ask a question. So we're finished today. What happened?
That's excellent. And coaching is different than pro bono.
Well, it wouldn't matter as far as I'm concerned whether it was a pro bono or a paid session. I would still ask the same question. But coaches normally ask for a commitment of 3 or 6 months, depending on what you're working on, etc. And at the end of that session, there's always a closure letter where you ask what all of those feedback questions. And at the end, you ask permission to use whatever they say for testimonials or whatever. But the feedback experience, it is a form, but it asks very specific questions.
And the reason that coaches do that is it's a mental lock-in, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, I have learned decades ago as a management consultant, is that when you come to the end of the project, even if you have to type the letter yourself in the old days and present it to the client for their signature, because what happens is clients have a tendency to be short-sighted. Mm-hmm. That is to say, when you're off premises and they're at the golf club, and they say, oh yeah, well, we hired KPMG, but really they didn't tell us anything because we would have done that anyway. But while you're there, they think you hung the moon. Why? Because their skin in the game is your daily rate. Mm-hmm. And whether it be in coaching, whether it be in consulting, or whether it be in digital consulting, the client has skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So when they sign that letter, they're committing to you, yes, I understood what you did, I understand where you're taking me, and I'm happy. Mm-hmm.
So
I usually ask way more specific questions.
Well,
so what were the breakthroughs? Mm-hmm. And I usually the first question is what brought you to coaching in the first place? Mm-hmm. What were the breakthroughs? How could this work be improved from your perspective? Like very specific questions. And I usually
I have to go, guys. I'll talk to you later. I have a pro bono client whom I'm helping, so I kid you not here. I kid you not. So who I am actually helping for the greater good. So
there you go. There you go.
Building my karma pool. So
well, we are coming up on the hour. So thanks for coming, Jay.
Okay, take care, everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Jay. Loanne.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I think that is great. The problem sometimes, the thing I'm having a little bit of trouble wrapping my head around is that those kind of forms end up taking a life of their own.
Yeah.
And unless you're getting paid, unless that's billable time to go through that sign-off, mm-hmm. I think it does the practitioner better than the client. Because when you're sitting across from a client and interviewing that way, you say, okay, it's all we have time for today in today's session. Was it good for you? they'll tell you that people vote with their feet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's great. And if it works for your practice, all well.
Well, I would see every bit as much, or maybe even more, to have a conversation, a closure conversation.
Who needs the closure, though, them or you?
It's a good question.
I know, that's why I asked it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I certainly need it.
Okay, then that in itself isn't bad. It's how you experience yourself and how you get that your desire to be better at what you do.
Mm-hmm.
As you just answered the question quite innocently, but the power behind that answer is okay. That makes you better at what you do in your own eyes.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of a couple of situations though where we came to the end of the session and the person decided they wanted another session.
Well, yeah.
As a result of the well, I don't know whether it was as a result of the conversation about what we achieved or not.
Okay, but that shouldn't be accidental. What if you, as I may have shared, I don't know if on this Hangout or another one, I have 4 basic consulting assignments that I do, and each one of those consulting assignments has 3 subsets. Mm-hmm. So that is the Whitman sampler of what I can do in digital consultancy, and I know where in the process the client should be, mm-hmm. and unless they're reaching into my computer and pulling out the next assignment, I've done a flat job. Mm-hmm. But if that's as far as they want to go. Some people. Okay, you don't have to do everything, as it's been said recently. You don't have to do all the time. You don't have to do everything. As in digital business, you don't have to do everything, but you have to pick a few things and do them right. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about for the recipients of the services we provide. Some people may not want to be a full-blown e-commerce. Some people may be happy writing a blog. Some people may be happy writing a few Google Plus and stuff like that. So while it's good to as one of my mentors in consultancy decades ago, when my hair was black, would say, okay, 2 things is find the client. Mm-hmm. And if you keep your fingers out of your nose and your foot on your mouth, out of your mouth, listen to what they say, and they will tell you how to help them. And that has always worked. It's prevailed for over 35 years.
The art of listening, absolutely.
We got 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and 1 mouth, and 2 ears. Think about it.
So I'm looking at the time. It is almost exactly an hour. Before we sort of close, is there anything back to the house spring cleaning topic? Are there any parting shots that anybody would like to raise before we close today?
Yeah, go kick up some dust.
Yeah, and I was going to say just do it.
When I was working in industry, we had a process called 5S. And the first piece of that is sort. So by organizing, a lot of what we talked about here was organizing and just basically part of the sorting process is getting rid of the extraneous stuff. Mm-hmm. And of course there are 4 more steps beyond sort. Basically you arrange things so that it's in a proper place and it's where you want to go to use it each time. If you don't use it frequently, then it goes away, or it moves off-site where you don't have to deal with it all the time. And so by using the 5S process. It's a Japanese concept that was originally started by, I think, Toyota, but it has its value. It has its but essentially, when you start doing something like this, walking through the 5S process is a good exercise.
Sounds like a can you remember all of the steps?
Oh, well, they're all in Japanese here. Hang on a second.
Oh.
They have been translated into English.
Well, it's okay. We can look it up. The 5S process.
Yes. It's a methodology. Yeah, Wikipedia has a nice listing for it.
It's a methodology that Deming sold the Japanese.
Oh,
the Japanese sold it back to us as Kaizen.
I'm familiar with Deming's work. Yeah. Okay.
After WW2, when the Japanese couldn't go back into uniform, they set up all these management consultants in Japan, and it's kind of like the Star Trek movie where Voyager went out and came back as Vija. So management consulting went out and came back as Kaizen.
The 5S's are sort, set in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. So.
Okay. Right on. There we go. So thank you all for your contribution this morning. I think it's time for us to wrap up today's conversation. And with a reminder to those who are outside watching, or who have said they're going to attend, but I know from where they live it will be later. I encourage you to join the Being Your Own CEO community on Google+, and participate there. And I might also mention that I maintain a kind of a I'm losing a word this morning. Darn. I'm maintaining a site on Google Plus that is especially for solopreneurs with all kinds of resources and so forth. So I encourage people to go and have a look and see what's there. As mentioned earlier, I posted something from Psychology Today on overwhelm, which I thought was very applicable to solopreneurs. So that's the kind of thing that you'll find there. So do find the collections and or the community. Excuse me. So bye for now, and we'll see you again at this same time next week.